Today is game number 2 between the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Habs have a 1-0 series lead, and Carolina got shocked out of their socks with a 6-2 defeat on home ice Thursday. Will this continue in Montreal's favor, or will the Carolina Hurricanes tie things up in their home barn? There's only one way to find out. We gotta watch the game going on later. But before we dive into the actual game itself, I wanted to talk about Montreal's magician and the overall level of magic that you can say is existing within this franchise so far. How some of the top players of opposing teams have gotten shut down, and what some other fans have to say about it. Let's talk today about Nick Suzuki, Montreal Canadiens first-line center, their captain, and one of the top point scorers on the team so far in this playoff run. And look at this tweet made by Hockey Insider yesterday. Tampa Bay Lightning fans are complaining about Nikita Kucherov disappearing against the Habs. Sabres fans are complaining about Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch. Now, it's just one game, but I read Canes fans complaining about Sebastian Aho disappearing. Maybe it's time to give credit to the magician that makes all these stars disappear. Nick Suzuki. He is a shoo-in for the Selke Trophy this year, and he is truly playing defense to an elite level during these playoffs. Now, I love the thesis that this tweet goes out there and proposes, that Nick Suzuki has played Selke-level hockey this season with 101 points in the regular season and stellar defensive play, and he is a key contributing reason as to why guys like Kucherov, Tuch, Tage Thompson, and potentially even Sebastian Aho have struggled against Montreal this year. Now, let's just dive into the numbers to see where that's all coming from. Nick Suzuki, of course, over a point per game this playoff run with 16 points in 15 games, had another multi-point effort in Game 1 against the Carolina Hurricanes, 3 assists and 0 goals. Meanwhile, if we go back to round 1, Nikita Kucherov ended off his stint against Montreal with 0 points in the final 3 games of the series. Not great. Especially for a guy that scored 130 points in the regular season. This guy was seriously almost at double points per game, but he was under a point per game in the playoffs against the Habs in round 1. Meanwhile, Alex Tuch, we had spoken about this in a few videos already, but Tuch had 0 points in all 7 games against the Montreal Canadiens. That is not ideal. That is not great. Tage Thompson went out there and produced a good amount of points in totality. He had 8 points in the 7-game series against the Montreal Canadiens, but 0 points in the Game 7. Yes, his numbers were inflated by that domineering Game 6 victory, where he had scored a goal and 3 assists. But ultimately, Tage Thompson is a guy that I did see a lot of Sabres fans complaining about when talking about his overall point production or lack thereof against Montreal. Tuch is the guy who had most fingers pointed his way, though. That Tuch, Krebs, and Thompson line wasn't together for very long, even though it was utilized to a pretty good extent in the Boston series in round 1. Now, for Sebastian Aho in the Carolina Hurricanes organization, this guy's been doing pretty all right, 5 points in 9 playoff games. Not the best, but then again, Carolina has only played 1 game where they've lost all playoffs so far, so I don't think it's fair to say that anybody on Carolina has not been pulling their weight up to this point. Sebastian Aho has been producing, and he did get a point in Game 1 against Montreal. 1 assist, 2 penalty minutes, -1, and 3 shots. So even though it's a very small sample size with Sebastian Aho against Montreal, it does fit into this narrative of Montreal finding a way to keep other teams' top players off the board for an extended amount of time. Nikita Kucherov, Tuch especially, these guys got a bunch of flack when talking about how they could not score points against a pretty amped up Canadiens team. Going out there and reading some of the replies, LMAO, Nikita Kucherov disappeared for just Game 7. He had torched the Montreal Canadiens in Games 1 through 6. Now, if you look at the game log, yeah, you'll see that Nikita Kucherov had 2 points in Game 1, a goal in Game 2, an assist in Game 3, and 2 points in Game number 4. But as Hockey Insider said, he had 1 even strength point the whole series. I don't think he torched the Habs at all. I know you want to credit Suzuki with the shutting down of Thompson and Tuck, but they're not even on the same line, so nice try at least. They were on the same line for the first 5 games until Lindy Ruff broke them up in Game 6. As good as Suzuki is, he didn't line up against Kucherov or Thompson. More often than not, it was the Phillip Danault line. So there you go. Even more props being tossed out there to some other Canadiens guys. Phillip Danault has been a stellar shutdown center as well. Gotta shout out Danault and Evans. They have all been holding it down when thinking about where the Canadiens have gone so far. Nick Suzuki, he's the guy that you can put all the fingers at because, hey, he is the over point per game captain who has been responsible for the majority of the center minutes up to this point. But it also is true that guys like Danault and Evans have been pulling their weight as well. You just, think about it over here. I mean, part of the rebuild that we had seen the Canadiens go through from the 2020s up until now has been kind of circular. This tweet by Paul essentially sums it all up. The Canadiens went through a full rebuild, and their center core is nearly identical from the last time they were going to the finals to now. Suzuki, Danault, and Evans. And that is so funny when you acknowledge just how everything came about 5 years later. Jake Evans was a young dude when the Canadiens made the finals in 2021. Nick Suzuki was a rookie. But now, it's 2026, Suzuki is the captain, Danault got brought back, he is now talking about how Marty St. Louis is potentially the best coach he has ever had, and Jake Evans is a fully polished middle-to-bottom sixer who provides some stellar shutdown defensive play. So while it is true you can say that Nick Suzuki is the ultimate magician that is causing all these other superstars in the NHL to disappear when they play the Habs, I think credit is due for other players as well. It is not just Suzuki. You have other guys that are matching up and doing some very solid work. At the end of the day, though, that does not change the mission for the Montreal Canadiens heading into game number 2 today against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be a Saturday night to blast off, and if the Montreal Canadiens can get themselves another win and take a 2-0 series lead back to Montreal, it puts them in a very, very good spot, akin to what we are seeing out of the Vegas Golden Knights so far and their series. We gotta make another video later in today's show talking about this series, by the way, so stay tuned to the channel if you want to hear my thoughts on Vegas, Colorado. But if Montreal ends up pulling this off, if they go to the finals and they play off against Vegas, for example, then 2021 rematch, anybody? Except this time it's going to be in the finals rather than the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, that's right. The last time the Montreal Canadiens played off against Vegas, it was not in the finals. It was in the 3rd round, and the winner of that matchup, Montreal, won the Western Conference Championship title. So, yeah, very strange happenings 5 years ago with the North Division season. But with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this idea that Nick Suzuki, Danault, Evans, these have been the magicians in Montreal, causing guys like Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, Nikita Kucherov, and supposedly Sebastian Aho to disappear? Do you think this is going to continue heading into this Game 2 and beyond? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign 9. And bye.